Okay. You know, I can talk about field theory until the cows come home. I don't know who wants to listen. You go really, really deep down the rabbit hole if you want to. By the way, my prior video in disproving relativity, a la the article of Dr. Oli Digiafamenko, PhD doctorate of mathematics and physics, and here are some of his extremely heavy, extremely heavy-handed math-laden books, and this one's my favorite. My other copy got so worn out that it fell apart. This is Causality, Electromagnetic Induction, and Gravitation. It's a brilliant book everybody should actually get. I know there's a digital copy out there somewhere. I have it. I have a digital copy of it. Brilliant scientist. Let's actually talk about, it's the easiest way to debate stupid people and stupid ideas is specifically quantum. And of course quantum doesn't refer to anything whatsoever. Nikola Tesla said that you can be both extremely intelligent and insane. A lot of scientists, he said, are deep thinkers, but they can't think clearly. Specifically, I think Tesla's quote is that you to think clearly, you have to be able to think clearly. It's not just about thinking deeply. You can think deeply and be incredibly insane. This, of course, is the genesis for quantum. Fundamentally, if you start with a faulty premise and using retroduction, it's easy to destroy quantum and particle physics. Not that I don't believe in particles. There is one fundamental particle, of course, just one, and one only. But destroying it is extremely easy. If you actually start off with a faulty premise, then everything that's after it, of course, is bullshit. Specifically, and here's one prime example when we talk about the double slit experiment. And of course that is a simple exercise in constructive and destructive interference when you actually set up a phase disparity of the ether perturbation. That's all light is. Of course, light is a coaxial circuit, transverse electrical magnetic, longitudinal dielectric pulse perturbations. But if you actually start off with a false premise, i.e. a la wave-particle duality, and that light has a speed, nothing that you could actually conclude about the double slit experiment is sensible, logical, and you've already started off with crazy presuppositions and concepts in your head before assuming any conclusions in testing the double slit experiment or the conclusions made thereafter. Specifically, there's no such thing as a wave. Light is not a particle, and light doesn't travel. What do you mean light doesn't travel? Sure it does. No, if you think light is actually propagating from point A to point B, something is moving from point A to point B, then of course you're a fool. It would be equally stupid to think that someone in a large swimming pool, just one person for example, is like flapping their arms frantically, right? And creating waves. Of course, waves of what? Waves of water. Is the person emitting anything? No, absolutely nothing is being emitted by the person at all. However, a disturbance is being made. The release of energy, you actually burn calories to flap your arms in the middle of a pool or the ocean, right? And of course you disturb the waves. You actually disturb the medium. The medium, of course, in this case being the ether. Let's get onto the ether here directly in just a second. But of course, when we talk about the wave-particle duality that scientists love to talk about, or specifically the dual slit experiment, they all begin with the fallacious presuppositions, in this case a trinity of fallacious concepts and presuppositions which are all incorrect. There's no such thing as a wave. Light is not a particle, and light does not move. So if you're actually able to erase that out of your head and actually think correctly and understand what a field is, of course a field is an ether perturbation modality. Just like ice, water, and steam are all different pressure and temperature modalities of one and the same thing, right? Water, what's the difference between ice, water, and steam? They're all the same thing. They're different expressions of one and the same thing, i.e. the water molecule, due to pressure and temperature. All ether modality expressions, both dielectric, magnetic, electrical, and gravitational, are of course all one and the same thing. It's the exact same difference between talking about ice, water, and steam. Ultimately, there's no such thing as gravity. Gravity is a misunderstanding of the nature of what gravity is, and the same thing that idiots call magnetic attraction, which does not exist because attraction, i.e. Centripetal convergence, is a dielectric acceleration. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. The distinction, of course, is the exact same difference between a 5-watt laser and a 5-watt light bulb. What's the difference between a 5-watt laser and a 5-watt light bulb? They're both EMR. They're both 5 watts. What's the distinction between a 5-watt laser and a 5-watt light bulb? So-called gravity is non-point source mutual mass acceleration, and so-called magnetic attraction, which does not exist at all, it's simply dielectric acceleration, is point source. One is a multiplicative of the other. And it's kind of like, a strong man can break, 10 sticks individually, of course, but if you actually put those 10 sticks together, the Roman fascia, even the strongest person on earth can't break it. We actually have not additive, but we have multiplicative factor here, and that, of course, is a distinction of what point source is. But getting on to the ether, there's only the easiest way to destroy quantum, and of course quantum doesn't refer to anything at all. Modern scientists are not scientists in the Platonic or Aristotelian sense. What they are is mathematicians. They fundamentally believe the ultimate heresy is if you can't count it, then forget about it. So they want to quantify everything, quantum, quantity. The foundation for all cosmic mechanics and all field theory can only have two foundations, talking about a house here. This is the house of quantum, and this is the house of rational, intelligent, wise people, like Plato, Plotinus, Nikola Tesla, James Clerk Maxwell. This is the house that rationality built. And this is the house that crazy dumbasses build, i.e. quantum. One is built upon atomism, and mutual interaction of particles, including especially, and this is not my view because I'm about to say something that sounds completely ludicrous and crazy, but this is the actual belief system, and it is a belief system. It has no basis in reality, because if you reify something that has never been the input or output of any experiment that ever existed and is purely conceptual with no basis in reality, then it is a belief system. It's a freaking religion. Quantum physics, literally, okay, not kinda, literally, thinks that what goes on between magnets is the exchange of virtual photons. They call it virtual particles, virtual photons. Makes no difference. Virtual particles. Not the basis of any experiment ever done. A completely asinine construct that's used to make equations balance out. It has no basis in reality. It's no different than saying leprechauns or unicorns. Completely asinine. Completely asinine. By the way, something really, really important, if people were actually to engage the dialectic and engage in Platonic retroduction, it would be very, very easy to quickly decipher the nature of fields, because at the center of a magnet, when you actually stick a Gauss meter between two large magnets to bring them together, there is no magnetism, i.e. the center of any magnet, if you're able to probe it, there is no magnetic field, there's no magnetic flux. At the center of a source of gravity, there is no gravity. So if you can go into a capsule to the middle of the Earth, of course there'd be no gravity. At the center of an electrostatic, i.e. a dielectric field, there's the highest concentration of the same. So at the center of a magnet, there's no magnetism. At the center of a source of gravity, there is no gravity. But the center of a dielectric field. And electricity, of course, is to be disregarded. Specifically, Charles Proteus Steinmetz specifically states in his book on page 8 of Electrical Discharges, Waves, and Impulses, and other places, that even in his day, 100 years ago, almost 100 years exactly, everybody had no effing clue what dielectricity was versus electricity. Electricity, he said specifically, was 5 times cycles Q and Planck of electrification. In other words, electricity is a hybrid of dielectricity. He actually said that scientists of his day, 100 years ago, have overtly complicated the understanding of what electricity is versus electrostatics, i.e. dielectricity. Actually, when you understand what dielectricity is, explaining how an electromagnet works is incredibly simple. I don't know if you know how like a giant electromagnet works, like when they actually pick up huge cars out in the junkyard. Where does the magnetism come? I mean, it actually feeds electricity into the coil, but, why does it turn into, what is the basis of a giant electromagnet? And the answer is that the electricity that's actually fed into that coil, into the electromagnet, the dielectricity is lost in counter space, and the only thing that remains, it is freed. Magnetism is freed from its dielectric counterpart in the electricity, and X number of volts and watts, X number of volts and amps that are actually fed to that coil, depending on the size of the electromagnet, and what's left is a very powerful magnetic field. The dielectricity is lost in counter space, and what is left is a huge, powerful magnetic field. And this is why electromagnets are so impressive. I love electromagnets. They generate a lot of heat, and they actually cause a lot of issues. But anyway, getting back to quantum, there's only two foundations upon which the universe can be constructed. There's absolutely no third option. So there's no third option. There's absolutely zero possibility. This isn't my idea. There has never been anybody ever in time, in any branch of science, ancient Greek, ancient Egyptian, ancient Indian, modern English, Dutch, German, American that have ever postulated anything other than two foundations to the house of cosmic mechanics, of field theory, of the nature of reality, explaining natura naturans, or Mother Nature, specifically a la field theory. Only two. One is based in the ether, and the other one is based in the cult of bumping particles. Particle interchange, particle interactions, virtual photons and virtual particles, which have no basis in reality, purely conceptual, an arbitrary belief system which have never been the output or input of any experiment ever done, ever. But this is what quantum mechanics... Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Do a Google search. Type in, what does quantum say how magnets work? It's the interchange of virtual particles. Really? What are virtual particles? Well, virtual particles are an abstraction. They're used to make equations balance out. They really don't have any basis in reality, but we use... Oh, God, Jesus. So there's only two ways you could build a foundation. You see, you don't actually have to fight up here on the actual structure of the ether or of quantum, because this is where everybody's fighting and debating, is up here on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th level of the two houses, one based on the ether and one based on quantum. And quantum, by the way, is irreducibly atomistic. It's atomism. It's literally the cult of bumping particles. That's kind of funny, but people remember it and they actually understand what it means when I say the cult of it's the belief system that the universe is... Mother Nature is a crazy hooker on crack with a giant bag of magic particles, and they're all bumping in and around. The universe doesn't work that way. Everything is fields, and fields are not particles. You can't build a house upon the foundation of ether. The universe doesn't work that way. It's convoluted, it's illogical. Light does not move. Okay? A wave does not exist. There's no such thing as a wave. People have actually tried to argue with me in their stupidity. Sure, waves exist. Oh, really? Show me a wave. Nobody can show you a wave because a wave doesn't exist. That's like saying I was walking down the street and I saw happiness approaching me. You know? You can't. It's like, who is happy? It's like, no, I saw happiness. No, who is happy? No, I saw happiness walking down the street. Or I saw sadness. Or it's like, what are you talking about? Who was sad walking? No, I saw sadness walking down the street. What the hell are you talking about? You on crack? When you talk about waves, there's no such thing as a wave. A wave is a posterior attribute relational to a subject to a principle that is waving. This is a wave. No, this is my hand moving. No, this is a wave. No, it's my hand moving. Anyway, there's only those two foundations. There has never been in history any postulation of the nature or the picture of the universe that was outside of either the ether or of quantum. Specifically, we can actually talk about old quantum, which is atomism. Once again, we're talking about like old Greek atomism or old Indian atomism. There were atomists dating back thousands of years. You know, people believed in this crazy bullshit for thousands of years. The only difference is now the modern version of this bullshit is called quantum. Greek atomism existed, they just didn't call it quantum. But you can't explain the universe that way. Light is not something that moves. Light, nothing emits light. What people think is the speed of light is a rate of induction. If you think light moves, then you're a fool. But of course you've been brainwashed like everybody else. Talk about the dual slit experiment. Well, you've started out with the presupposition that light is moving, that light is a particle, and or that light is a wave, or both and neither. And of course none of that is true. Light is not moving, it's not a particle, and it's not a wave. All the suppositions that we believe and by these you humans are absolutely crazy. The bullshit that humans believe is so asinine. The stuff that people believe. I mean, you humans really are crazy. I mean, you're crazy. It's the most illogical bullshit imaginable. You can't even explain how light speeds. If you think light is a particle or something is moving from point A to point B, which is what modern science believes, and it's a belief system, not your religion, then you've broken the law of conservation of energy, because when light actually enters glass, if you think something is entering glass, which it's not, it's a field perturbation that meets everything's capacitance, resistance, magnetic permeability, dielectric permittivity. When light leaves glass, which it doesn't, but this is what modern science believes, when it leaves glass, it speeds back up. Well, how does it speed back up without breaking the law of conservation of energy? That's impossible. How does light speed back? Because if you think that light is moving from point A to point B, then you think that light is a particle or a wave or a transmission or all the above. and that it is moving at a speed. Something is moving from point A to point B at a speed, but when it enters glass, it slows down. It does. That's not my opinion. It's a fact. So how does it speed back up again after it leaves glass? Well, you can't explain that if you believe in atomism, which is what quantum is. Quantum and atomism are one and the same thing. It's impossible. I could talk about this subject until the cows come home. I don't know who really wants to hear it, however, but anyway, I hope you like these videos. If you do, you could always drop a dime because I'm broke. I need a real vacation. You know what I need? I need a vacation. I'm never going to get a real vacation, but anyway, I hope you like these videos. Have a lovely week. It is hotter than Satan's crotch here right now, both inside and outside. Yeah, I'm going to need to turn the air conditioner down and drink some more caffeine. Thank you.